This is the Chris Cross Show. I'm back and I have a loaded episode for you today. So I want to talk about the Lakers season and their exit interviews that happened last week. I also want to talk about the NBA playoffs. We are in the first round and it's a pretty exciting first round. I know this weekend's game ones were all exciting. And I really want to talk about them and break them down and give you my prediction. So anyways, enjoy. Okay, so as you know, before I begin every episode, I show you a jersey. But today I wanted to show you two things. So I wanted to show you my new pair of running shoes in honor of the Boston Marathon today. These are the Nike Vaporflies. They are speed demons, I'll tell you that. This is actually my second pair of this colorway. So a funny story about this shoe was I bought this before my race 2 weeks ago. And when I bought it, I wore it to the race, but this came out, this piece of rubber. So this is like the foam, this is the ZoomX foam, and this is the rubber. So this rubber actually came off, and luckily Nike has a 60-day return. Like if it's damaged, if it gets damaged within the first 60 days, and if you have the receipt, you can get a fresh new pair, or you can just get your money returned to you. So I got a fresh new pair. The traction looks pretty good. I hope it doesn't rip out. I'm gonna race in these this weekend, and I really want to show you guys this one because if you're a runner and if you're into racing, the Vaporflies, they are magical. So I want to show you that. Also, in honor of Duncan Robinson coming off the bench in game one for the Heat's game and scoring 27 points, hitting 8 3-pointers, I think hitting a franchise record for the Heat in the playoffs. I want to show you this jersey that I got last year. I think this was their city jersey last year. I really like this jersey. I never really get to wear jerseys that often. If anything, I probably never get to wear the jerseys. I just get to look at them the entire time. So I just wanted to show this jersey off and just kind of show you my shoes. So anyways, back to the regular scheduled program. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the Lakers season as a whole, their roster construction, and give you my opinion on their exit interviews. Now, I made a video at the very beginning of the season for the Lakers Media Day, and I gave you my opinions on some of the players and what they said during Media Day. So I wanted to give you my opinion on what the players said during their exit interviews and what I thought about that. So anyways, let me give you some stats on the Lakers season this year. So they finished 33-49, which was 11th best in the Western Conference. They were predicted to win 52 games this year, which if you win 52 games, you're guaranteed at least a top 6 seed. And obviously they did, and they won 33 games. Also, they're the oldest team in the league, and I know it's said everywhere, you hear it every single week during the Lakers season, was that they're the oldest team in the league, they're the oldest team in the league. And let me give you some context. So the Lakers, the oldest team in the league, average age of 30.2. Second oldest was Utah with 29.5. Third oldest was Brooklyn with 29.1. Fourth oldest was Milwaukee with 28.5, and in Miami was fifth with 28.2. So again, those teams are all in the playoffs except for the Lakers. So I don't think age had a lot to do with it. It was more roster construction for me. Also, they finished 21st in defensive rating. 21st out of 30 teams, you're not even top half of the league. You're bottom half of the league. And if anything, you're bottom third of the league, which is even worse. And this is coming off of last year finishing first in defensive rating, which, again, they were just dogs on defense last year. And this year, they let anyone score. And it almost felt like they let anyone score in the paint. And they rarely rim protected. So, again, a lot of it has to do with roster construction, which I'm actually going to get into next. So, new players for the Lakers this year were Carmelo Anthony, Rajon Rondo. Again, he came back. He left and he came back, as well as Dwight Howard. Malik Monk, Austin Reeves, Wenyen Gabriel, Stanley Johnson, DJ Augustine, Wayne Ellington, and I might be missing someone. Kent Bazemore, and I might be missing one more. But that was the new players that they got this year, which, again, it's a lot. It's 6, 7, 8 players that they got. So that's basically a whole new team from what they had last year. And even last year, they got basically a whole new team. So the reason why I mentioned those players is because I really tried to see the positives that each player brought. Like Wayne Ellington can shoot threes. Malik Monk, I didn't really know too much about him because I didn't really watch Charlotte, but I knew he was a pretty good scorer. Austin Reeves, again, undrafted rookie, didn't really know much about him. Rondo, I knew he was going to come back, and he played really good during their championship run. Dwight Howard, again, he played really good, big factor in their championship run. Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook were two big names that they signed over the summer. Obviously, Russell Westbrook was traded. I really didn't like the Russell Westbrook trade when it initially happened, just because I've never really been a big Russell Westbrook fan, and I've already heard what the media said about him, and I've already seen him enough to know that he can't shoot, and he's a really bad defender, even though he, gives a lot of energy during the game. Carmelo Anthony, never really good defender. I knew he was going to score buckets, but I knew he was going to give up buckets. So that's my opinion on that. Wenyen Gabriel, Stanley Johnson, and DJ Augustine were all mid-signings. Again, they were all cut from teams or waived from teams earlier this year. So a lot of them were. So those three guys were just brought in mid-season and just kind of asked, like, hey, provide us energy. So I really liked those signings. I thought they were underrated, even if they had been cut or waived earlier in the season. So again, the roster construction was a little funky, bringing a lot of old guys and bringing in a lot of young players who were cut or waived and just other players. So it was a weird team, and I tried to see the positives. I'm like, I tried to really see what each guy brought. But one thing that I could really point my finger at that they did not bring was defense. Obviously, Stanley Johnson brought defense. Austin Reeves, we learned he's a pretty good defender. Dwight Howard, we know he's all right on defense now. But a lot of those guys did not bring defense. And again, knowing who Frank Vogel is and how he's a defensive-minded coach, a team he had last year with dogs like Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder, Marc Gasol, Andre Drummond on defense, I knew this team was going to be worse on defense, but I thought they were going to be better just because they brought more offense. And obviously we know that the NBA is moving more towards an offensive league as opposed to defense. So that's my opinion on the roster construction. If Rob Pelinka sees this video and he wants my opinion on players that they should sign or trade for, let me know. Let me know what you think about the roster construction. If you know any of those players or how you feel about those players, let me know. I am going to get into the exit interviews and my opinions on that up next. Okay, so I want to get into the Lakers exit interviews. So I'll give you a couple of players. Obviously, the first couple will be quick, and then the last one, it's on Russell Westbrook. It's making me mad thinking about it. So let me get to Avery Bradley first. I want to mention Avery Bradley because he was brought in at the very beginning of the season. I think right before the first game of the season, the Lakers kind of signed him again. And he played big minutes. He was pretty good from the corner three. I really liked his production. He played pretty good defense against some other point guards in the league, held his own. He's always been known as a pretty good defender, and obviously Frank Vogel is a defensive-minded coach, so bringing Avery Bradley was kind of a no-brainer. So in his exit interview, he basically said, it's in God's plan. It's God's plan to bring me back. If they want to bring me back, I'll be happy. If not, I'll see where my future lies. And so I really like that because I really do hope they bring him back, at least kind of have him ride the bench and play a couple games here and there. And again, I just like Avery Bradley because I thought he played good defense and they needed that all year. Malik Monk, in his exit interview, he basically said like he had a really good season. He really liked playing for this team, really hopes to be back. I really do hope they bring Malik Monk back. The odds of that are very unlikely because I do believe Malik Monk is due for a big payday, mid, 10 million, 15 million per year. Because I do believe he did deserve it and did earn himself a good paycheck because of his production this year. I really hope the Lakers bring him back. I really hope they find 10 million lying around somewhere to kind of bring him back. But again, the hopes of that with the big three that they have right now, probably unlikely. Taylor Horton-Tucker. Now, Taylor Horton-Tucker was honest, and I really liked his honesty. He said that this year he was hoping to take a leap, but obviously that didn't happen. He felt that his growth was stunted. He didn't really say it, but he said that he's used to having the ball in his hands, and obviously having Russell Westbrook and LeBron, two ball-dominant players. He really didn't get to have the ball in his hands. Also, his injuries played a huge factor in him not really playing as much and obviously being inconsistent. He did also mention the adjustment he had to make. Now, last year when we saw Taylor Horton-Tucker, we saw him as a really promising player because he came in last year, scored 9 points per game, and when he had the ball in his hand, it was kind of magical when he got to the paint. Obviously, his cool layups that he would do. We saw a lot of hope and promise in him, and then this year, he took a step back because of Russell Westbrook dominating the ball and LeBron dominating the ball, and also his injury. He was constantly injured. So again, all that really played a huge factor into it. But I really like this honesty. I don't really know how I feel about having him back. If Russell Westbrook comes back, I don't want THT back just because he's going to have to adjust. And again, this year he adjusted into more of a spot-up shooter rather than a ball handler. So that's THT's interview. Also, LeBron's interview. Now, I'm going to mention LeBron briefly. I watched his exit video in spurts. I watched like 30-second videos, 50-second videos. I didn't watch the whole thing. But he did mention that he wants to win again. He said that when he won in 2020, he was really happy about winning in 2020, winning a championship with the Lakers, but he wants to win again. Now, as a LeBron fan, I'm really, really happy to hear that he wants to win again, just because I want LeBron to have 5 championships at least before he retires. Because I have the championship replica rings, and I really want to complete, my hand. I really want a ring for each finger. So, LeBron, do it for me, please. So there you go. That's LeBron's post-game interview. He wants to win again. Really, really good things to say, and said that he's really excited to think about reconstructing the roster and whatnot. So that's it about LeBron that I gotta say. Now, this one's gonna make me really, really, really mad because Russell Westbrook's exit interview was probably the worst exit interview for any player in any league ever. It was blame deflection, talking bad about the head coach, basically calling his co-stars, Anthony Davis and LeBron, liars, and also mentioning sacrifice. So I wanted to get into blame deflection. Russell Westbrook this year said he came into this year having no expectations. Now, he said this in a post-game interview one game, saying I got no expectations. There was really no expectations, because I think the question a reporter asked him was, what were your expectations for this year? And he said, I have no expectations. Now, a guy that comes into a team that's trying to win a championship and he says that, it's kind of bad, And he really blame deflected a lot. Now, Russell Westbrook's known to be snappy at the reporters, and he really blame deflected a lot. Basically said I missed shots. Oh well, we don't play good defense and whatnot. He never really took accountability, and that's what was missing in his exit interview, because he basically said I'm good. I don't need to change. I'm all right. Blame deflection, right? Basically saying I'm not to blame for these losses. Talking bad about Frank Vogel. Now, this is the one that makes me mad, because Frank Vogel's a really, really good coach, and he did, and I don't know why he mentioned this in his exit interview, but he said that he bought Frank Vogel and his wife a bottle of champagne for their anniversary, and said I don't know why he never liked me, right? It's not that Frank Vogel didn't like you, it's just that Frank Vogel tried to hold you accountable. Russell Westbrook mentioned his previous coaches like Scotty Brooks, Mike D'Antoni, and said that, he never had issues with them, that they loved him and whatnot. And said that he doesn't know why Frank Vogel didn't like him. Frank Vogel was just trying to hold him accountable, as I mentioned. Frank Vogel was like, Russ, you can't shoot, and you're struggling on the free throw line. I'm going to bench you for a player who I think can help us win the game. Now, again, as a star, sometimes you just have to accept the fact that this isn't your game. The game's not asking for you right now. take a seat on the bench, relax. Now, I say that because he hated Frank Vogel, and there was a couple of reports from people close to the Lakers that said that Russell Westbrook at one point at the beginning of the season told Frank Vogel that he's going to take the ball down the court and he's going to initiate the offense. Because I think Frank Vogel mentioned something about like getting a defensive rebound and just taking whoever has the ball, take it down the court. Obviously, give it to one of the reliable ball handlers like Malik Monk, Russell Westbrook, LeBron, Austin Reeves, Stanley Johnson, whatever. But Russell Westbrook told him, no, I'm taking the ball down the court. So, again, when you hear that as a head coach, you go, okay, great. My star player wants to take it down the court. But your star player, Russell Westbrook, turns the ball over, shoots really bad shots. It's kind of, not really hating. It's just more of like, you want to take the ball down the court, sure. But when you turn the ball over and you take a really, really bad shot that doesn't even hit that just hits the top of the backboard. I mean, watch the videos, please. It's kind of like, what are you doing, Russ? So I didn't really like that he's talked bad about Frank Vogel. I think Frank Vogel is a great coach. And also he talked about Anthony Davis and LeBron essentially being liars. Now, I'll use liars in kind terms because he mentioned that, Anthony Davis and LeBron always say, let Russ be Russ. And he's like, well, what does that mean? And whatnot. And kind of playing really, really dumb. Like, oh, they never let me be me and whatnot. Now, I say that because Russell Westbrook said that, he had to make sacrifices and no one knows the sacrifices that he made. He played 78 of their 82 games. He was basically there every night. Anthony Davis and LeBron missed 20 to 25 games. It was Russ's team in a sense. It was really Russ's team, and this kind of showed how bad of a leader he really was because Anthony Davis and LeBron missed a lot, and he didn't produce and did not really help the team with wins. Now, I'm going to mention the sacrifice. Russell Westbrook said, I sacrificed so much this year, right? I'm going to give you his usage rate, which again, usage rate is kind of a difficult term. I still don't really understand usage rate. When I play NBA 2K, they always mention usage rate, and I go, I use LeBron a lot. I use him 27.7% or usage, whatever. So Russell Westbrook's usage over the years, I'm going to mention them. So in OKC, his last year in OKC was 30.9. In Houston, it was 34.4. That's a lot. In 2021 with the Washington Wizards, it was 30.2. That's a lot. With LA, with the Lakers this year, it was 27.3. Now, is that the usage, or is that the sacrifice that Russell Westbrook is mentioning, that my usage went from 30 to 27? 27 is a lot. I mean, a lot of experts think 20 is a lot. Or at least 20 should be around where the star player is at, but 27 is a lot. It means you're being used about, I think, 27% of the time on the offense. So Russell Westbrook to have a 27 usage, I mean, it's down from his other years, but again, that's with playing with LeBron, who's another ball-dominant player again. So I just, when I hear the sacrifice, when I hear the blame deflection, when I hear him hating on his coach for holding him accountable, when I hear him talking about how Anthony Davis and LeBron, he didn't really know what they meant when they said let Russ be Russ. That's a lot of blame deflection. That's a lot of a player having a huge ego saying like, I don't know why they hate me. And he's still, clueless as to why the LA fans booed him and whatnot. And it's just kind of confusing, and it really upsets Laker fans and LeBron fans like me that a player doesn't take that accountability, that own up to your mistakes. Is it LeBron's fault or is it Frank Vogel's fault that you are hitting shots over the backboard, mid-range shots over the backboard? Is it Anthony Davis's fault, or is it Frank Vogel's fault that you are literally turning the ball over for no reason? Is it their fault that you are missing dunks and layups that are uncontested? Is it their fault? I think that's a lot of blame deflection. I think he's not owning up to a lot of things that he did mention. And again, I mean, I thought this was the worst post-game, I thought this was the worst exit interview ever. I mean, it was just ridiculous. Blame deflection, hating on the head coach, calling his co-stars liars. I didn't really get it, and I still don't get it, and I'm getting mad thinking about it. So I'm going to jump into the next segment, which is the NBA playoffs. So anyways, moving on to the next segment. Okay, so I want to talk about the NBA playoffs so far. So I'll talk about the East first, and I'll talk about the West. So with the East, the Heat and the Hawks, the Heat currently lead 1-0. They played great defense in game 1. I do believe a lot of that had to do with the Hawks playing 2 play-in tournament games, basically to get to the playoffs, and they were just kind of exhausted. You know, they played Friday night, and then they played Sunday afternoon, so I think that they were tired. The defense for the Heat was really, really good. They showed up. They had a 30-point lead at one point. They held Trae Young to a season low of 8 points, 1 of 12 shooting. They kept him in check, and I think if they keep Trae Young in check like that, like they did in game 1, or at least something close to that, then they'll easily win the series. Also, Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero played a huge factor in their game 1 win. Duncan Robinson had 27 points. He shot 8 of 9 from 3. I don't think he's going to do that again. But I think if Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero coming off the bench play this good, the Heat are easily going to win this. But I do believe the Heat will win in 5, just because I think that the Hawks will take 1 game at Atlanta. So Heat in 5. Up next, Brooklyn and Boston. This is an exciting series. I watched the entire game 1. I really liked it. Jason Tatum's buzzer beater was the only way that game should have ended, from a buzzer beater from any team. Kevin Durant had an off night. I think there were a couple buckets. I think there were 2 buckets that I saw for two missed shots that Kevin Durant had that I think could have easily, if he would have easily made, they would have probably won the game, because again, Boston won by 1. I am going to give Boston losing this series in 7 to Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn's going to tighten it up a little bit. And I think Kevin Durant's not going to have another bad game like that. I think if Kyrie continues to play like this, and I think Kyrie will continue to play like he did yesterday, if Kevin Durant kind of makes 2 or 3 more shots, I think Brooklyn is going to win the series in 7. It's going to be really, really competitive, and I'm really looking forward to this series. So Brooklyn in 7. Bucks and Bulls. Currently, the Bucks lead. It was a close game 1. DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine were way off. I think DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine, I don't know which one. One of them finished 6 of 25 shooting, so really bad. That's missing 19 shots. And it was a close game. I think the Bulls made it competitive towards the end, but Milwaukee just ended up winning. Giannis was sensational. I think he had 27 and like 10 plus rebounds. I am going to give the Bucks winning in 5. I do believe the Bulls will get 1 game or will steal a game from Milwaukee. I don't think LaVine and DeRozan are going to play this bad in game 2 and going on as the series continues. But I do believe that Milwaukee's just a little bit better, or actually a lot better than Chicago. And again, Chicago's a pretty young team. Other than DeRozan and Caruso, they don't really have much experience on the team. I mean, if you want to count Tristan Thompson, but I'm going to give the Bucks winning in 5. That's all I'll say about that. Sixers and Raptors. As I'm filming this, the Sixers and the Raptors are playing right now. I do believe the Sixers have a couple point lead over the Raptors right now in game 2. I'm going to give the Sixers winning in 4. They're just going to clean sweep the Raptors. Scotty Barnes is out. Gary Trent Jr. for the Raptors is dealing with some injuries. And Tyrese Maxey had the game of his life in game 1, and he's playing pretty good in game 2 as far as I can see. So I think that the 76ers are going to just swallow the Toronto Raptors and beat them in 4. And that's all I'll say about that. All right, moving on to the Western Conference. I'll start off with the Suns and the Pelicans. I watched that game. I watched the second half. The Suns had a pretty big lead. The Pelicans came back. The Pelicans have been on a hot streak. They got hot at the right time. They played 2 play-in games, beat the Spurs, and then beat the Clippers. And again, similar to Atlanta, coming in exhausted, playing 2 must-win games, kind of tired, a little jet-lagged. I believe the Suns are going to win in 5. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 4. The Pelicans made it a pretty competitive game late, but the Suns just kind of ended up swallowing them up. Chris Paul was sensational yesterday. And I think that CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram need to play big to give the Pelicans a chance, and I don't think that that's going to happen every game. So I'm going to give the Suns winning in 4, but I'm going to give the Suns winning in 5, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win in 4. Now, Grizzlies and Wolves, the 2nd seed versus the 8th seed. Now, sorry. The Wolves lead 1-0. They played a pretty good game wire to wire against the Grizzlies. This is what I'll say about the Grizzlies. And this happens every year with the young team with a promising rising star. They look really good in the regular season. I mean, I think the Grizzlies won 56 games this year. They looked really, really, really good during the regular season. Now, I am going to give the upset to the Wolves winning in 6 over the Grizzlies because I think the Wolves are just a better team overall. The Grizzlies are built for the regular season. I think during the playoffs, they kind of fumble a little bit. They're still a little young. They're just good regular season. Like, they're good catching, the Sixers on a Tuesday night after the Sixers had a big game over the weekend. Like, they're really, really good at that. And I think that the Wolves are just more ready right now than the Grizzlies are. So I'm going to give the Grizzlies winning, or I'm going to give the Wolves winning in 6 over the Grizzlies. So that's my upset there. Warriors, Nuggets. The Warriors currently lead 1-0. They basically dominated the Nuggets in game 1. I'm going to give the Warriors winning in 5 just because they dominated game 1 and they looked really, really good. Klay Thompson was good. Steph Curry came off the bench in 22 minutes, had 16 points, and just kind of held it. Now, I was looking on ESPN earlier, and their death lineup, the Warriors' new death lineup, with Curry, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green, basically all guys 6'7" and under. And I think they outscored the Nuggets by, I think, like 15 in like 5 minutes of that lineup out there. So for that lineup to be out there 5 minutes to outscore them by, I think, 15 or 13, that's big. And Jokic has no help. He's missing Michael Porter Jr. and he's missing Jamal Murray. I know Jamal Murray's been out all year and Michael Porter got injured earlier in the year, but he has no help, and the playoffs really show when you have help or if you don't have help. And the Nuggets they have no support after Jokic. So I do believe the Warriors will win in 5. All right, last series, Dallas, Utah. I think Dallas is going to win in 7, even though that the Utah Jazz are currently leading 1-0. If Luka Doncic comes back game 3, and if Dallas can win game 2, if they can win game 2 and even the series up with Luka Doncic coming back, that gives the Dallas Mavericks a good chance. And that honestly makes the series a best out of 5. And I think that Dallas and Utah are going to go to 7 games if Luka Doncic comes back game 3. I did see this crazy stat with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. I think Donovan Mitchell averages about 2 passes to Rudy Gobert on average every game, which is a little concerning because those are the 2 star players. And if Mitchell only averages 2 passes to Gobert every game, that means that there's something brewing there. And I think that's going to play a huge factor as the series goes on if Luka Doncic comes back. If Luka Doncic doesn't come back, I'm going to give Utah winning. But as of right now, if everything goes right, Dallas in 7 over the Utah Jazz. So those are my predictions. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree. Give me your opinions in the comments if you even get this far. Let me know what you think about this. I'm really happy to be back. I'll try to upload this video soon. When you watch it, obviously you'll see it. But let me know what you think. I'm happy to be back. Who knows when I'll be back? I'll probably be back in the second round of the playoffs, just to give you my opinion and to see if I'm right with my prediction. So anyways, thanks for watching.